What's going on YouTube? John without the H here at Sin RC. Today I got a treat for you guys. I'm going to be comparing and contrasting the major differences between the E-flite 64mm twin A-10 and the FMS 70mm twin A-10. They are both set up identically now. Neither one of them has differential thrust. The A-10 70 used to until I tore out the control board and set it up for Crow, which is what I wanted to do to begin with, but I just got kind of fed up with the way it was landing and it was driving me nuts. So I've completely rewired the plane. It is now much more docile. It took me a couple of battery packs off camera to get it trimmed out. I don't know if you guys care to see that kind of content, but it was basically me just going in circles trying to figure out which elevator directions I needed to have the Crow compensate. On this plane it was a little backwards. For Crow I needed up elevator, which is really weird because normally you need down elevator for Crow on most jets that I've flown. So flying this on a Z5250C pack. It's brand new. Just got it earlier this week. Just finished landing this thing. Just diagnosed a couple of issues with it. I think we're good to go, and then we'll take the E-flite 64mm up right after this. It's a little windy, but as you guys can see, I do have Crow enabled and it's working perfectly fine. I also have deflected ailerons as well. So I've got a lot of options here to work with mixing wise. I do hear a plane coming though, so I'm going to cut real quick and make sure that he's not coming to this airport. 1 second. Looks like we're clear. He's at 3,000 feet. There's no way he'd be coming here. The approach pattern's too different for that sort of height. All right, let's get out of here. Taking off. I need to straighten out that nose wheel with my trim. It's still a little wonky. I also, as a consequence of removing the control board and rewiring the plane, I've basically gotten it to neutral stability from what I can tell, or very close to it. Let's flip it upside down and check. Hands off, it's very close to being neutral. It was just slightly nosing down, which is pretty good. I could probably put the battery back even further because I removed the control board. So the major differences between these two so far that I can see is that the 64 is a little bit more agile. We're bringing in a Crow right here and we'll see how it lands with the Crow. No weird pitching tendencies or anything. Both A-10s and Crow do have a tendency to roll to the right. I don't know if that's just because of the torque of the motors or what. Whee! Kind of a garbage tier landing there, but that's okay. I'll keep working at it. This is a plane that I have yet to master. Once I get better at it, it'll be Viper style landings if it survives, which it should, because I need to make a setup video on this, because this is basically the version 2. So the FMS A-10 V2 is basically this. It's just a different paint scheme and maybe a couple small electronic differences. Crow coming back out. We're going to drop the flaps. This one has more of a presence in the sky versus the 64. It's also not as fast as the 64, but I like the way that it flies. It's very, there's a lot of inertia to it. Look at the way it glides in with Crow. Whee! Again, another garbage tier landing. A little bit of a crosswind and I didn't correct for it, but you know, it's not easy to land here. This is a 17-foot wide taxiway, and I'm happy that I'm able to land as well as I do. Let's do the inverted test again. Hands off. It's basically neutral, guys. If it isn't neutral, it's like a couple of millimeters away from it. Neutral is what I'm looking for with most jets, most aircraft in general. I don't like nose heaviness. I like to be able to go invert it and let go of the sticks, and it flies itself. Crow coming in. I don't think I've tuned the deflected ailerons yet. Nope, definitely haven't. See how it pitched up right there? So I need to fix that at some point. I'll just put in some more down elevator for it. Crow is perfect though. I mean, it's gliding in so slow with this headwind that it's flying into right now. Terrible takeoff. Got enough power to do this probably once or twice. A little bit of that was just yanking it too hard. I need to make a mix so that I don't pull the rudder as easily. I've got a rudder to nose wheel mix that I like to use on a lot of my jets that Like when I give it half stick, it barely moves the nose wheel, so that it prevents me from over controlling, and it makes it more smooth looking. The plane's built pretty well. Unlike the FMS / E-flite F-18, this is actually a really well built plane in comparison, and I don't hate it. All right, check the power levels.
22.87 volts.
So yeah, after this, we'll have to bring it in probably, or make this the last landing. But I feel touch and goes are a good way to get the idea of how a plane flies. So that's going to be most of the content we're going to work with here. I think I see all the gear, but I think I see one of them not all the way down. Okay, I only see 2. Flaps coming back up. Okay, all 3 of them came out that time. This model does have this issue where I thought it might have been the control board, but the control board's gone now. So it's all just the servos being weird on the retracts. A little bit of nose up.
Elevator 30 down.
Okay, a little bit more trim. I gotta go in and physically adjust that trim to put it in there permanently, rather than having it be electrical. That way I don't have to give up any servo travel, because whenever you put in trim, you're giving up a little bit of travel in one direction.
Full flaps.
Okay, see all 3 wheels. Beautiful day here. It's firmly springtime. I need to start wearing shorts. It's starting to get warm.
22.69 volts.
All right, here we go.
22.62 volts.
Plane's almost landing, hands off. Best landing yet. Gotta adjust for that nose wheel trim.
Steering 6. Steering 2.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and turn to the right, and then we're gonna begin a big arc to turn the jet around. Bring the flaps all the way up so that they don't sit there and complain nonstop, because you'll hear them when they're doing their thing,
Steering 4.
that they're a little complainy.
Steering 10.
Okay,
Steering 11.
almost got it trimmed.
Steering minus 5.
Much better. So yeah, now that it's got crow, I love it. I was actually getting really annoyed with it. I was gonna make it a permanent hangar queen until I realized, why don't I just tear the control board out? So that's what I did. I will go over that in the setup video later, assuming the jet survives, which it should. If I'm able to land it like this, I don't see anything going wrong. Before we call it quits here, let's check the battery voltage.
5 volts.
We are at 22.74 to 22.85 on landing. That's almost perfect storage voltage. Turn it on light mode so you guys can see it a bit easier. Let's check the flight log.
One loss is 100%. One loss.
Okay, so I did put a remote receiver in it. I got 1 frame loss for that entire flight, which was 4 minutes and 42 seconds of touch and goes. That's not bad. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and bring the A-10 64mm up, and we're gonna compare and contrast how both of these planes handle versus one another. Thanks for watching, guys. Be right back. Going up for the second flight of this vid. Now we're gonna be covering the 64mm. Between both of these, I love the paint schemes on both of them, but if I had to say a clear winner in terms of looks, it's going to be the shark teeth, crazy-eyed 70mm A-10, which is still my favorite A-10. I don't mind the warthog face on the 70 or the 64, but I prefer the looks of the 70s nose art. That's always been the iconic A-10 for me. Okay, flying this on a 4050C Smart Pack as opposed to the 5250C Smart Pack that the A-10 70 was flying on. This plane is set up identically to the Twin 70 over there. They both have crow. They both have full span flaps. I'll show you, so you guys don't think I'm just messing with you. There's the crow. There's the full span. Don't need crow for takeoff, although it probably wouldn't hurt. It would just maybe extend the takeoff roll a little bit from the induced drag. Check everything, make sure we're good. I also had to rehinge the ailerons on this plane because I was flying it so hard with those new servos that they actually started ripping off. So I replaced both aileron hinges because they were just a straight foam hinge with pinned CA hinges, or not CA hinges, pinned nylon hinges secured with CA. So they should be really good now. All right, here we go. This thing leaps into the air, much more agile than the 70. As you can see here, I mean, it just does pretty much whatever you want. Hope you can see all that. I tried to make sure that it was like right above. The GoPro 10 is pretty good at catching stuff.
23.6 volts.
Okay, we're gonna put the crow system active. Switch F number 2 is my crow position. You guys can't see it too well. You could if my cameraman Tony was here with me today. But when you put the gear out on this plane, because they're just giant plastic plates behind the wheels, you do get a bit of a nose down pitch. Even instantaneously, it's not that big of a deal, but it's something to watch out for. Okay, this model is definitely a bit more touchy feeling. Of course, it's lighter, and there's also a weird wind popping up right now. Try my best to cooperate with it.
1 minute.
Okay, when in doubt, throttle out. So already it doesn't handle the wind as good as the 70 does, because the 64 has nowhere near the amount of mass and inertia that the 70's got. It's a little bit different in terms of landing. The 70 so far in comparison lands better with crow, or even without crow. I think it would land better. Okay, got a nice hefty headwind coming in here. I'd say about 15 to 20 miles an hour behind me. I apologize for any muffled weird sounds. I've turned off the GoPro's auto microphone system, so it should just be stereo no matter what, so it might be a little loud. Apologize, rest in peace headphone users. Okay, throttling up to close to half throttle to get over this rough pavement patch. Okay, I think I got her now. Cutting throttle. So far, like I said, the 70 handles the turbulence of the airport I'm flying at much nicer. It cuts through the wind a bit less with less effort. It is definitely more heavily loaded in terms of the wing loading, so it does feel heavy as you're flying it, but not in a bad way. It does feel underpowered compared to the 64, though. That is something to watch out for. You're not going to be able to get yourself out of as many sticky situations as you can with the 64 flying the 70. But on top of that, the 70 still has that weird thrust line where you go to full throttle and it pitches down on you. That is awful. You just have to keep that in mind to keep elevator pressure as you're adding full throttle. It's not too big of an issue in the air, but it does happen with flaps down a lot. Now, by comparison, you saw me go upside down there and the plane pitched down. This plane is not neutral, not even remotely. It's very nose heavy. We're gonna go ahead and go inverted again, completely hands off. See how it's arcing towards the ground? It's not severely nose heavy, but it is rather nose heavy. If I had to give it a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being neutral and 10 being the nose heaviest thing that ever heavy to nose, I would say this is about 4.5 to 5. Not too awful, not too bad, not hard to manage, just annoying.
23.4 volts.
Okay, getting some pitch up here from turbulence. Definitely a little turby out here today. Touching down way farther than I want to. Now, one thing that the 64 does do better than the 70 is it does better knife edges. I mean, look. I was in rudder that whole time. You can't see my hands, but you guys should know me well enough to know by now that I don't lie to you guys. If I don't like something, I'm gonna tell you. If it won't do it, I'll tell you. I was definitely holding enough rudder there. It could have been cleaner.
22.8 volts.
But, you know, you're always learning, even if you're like a really accomplished pilot, and I like to think that I am at this point. I'm always learning. There's always something new that I need to know. Okay, keeping those wings level as best I can. One of the better landings I've had with the model so far. Again, on windy days, this model's actually a little bit harder to fly than it should be, but that's because it's small and it gets rocked around by turbulence more.
22.5 volts.
If you could see the full-scale aircraft flying today, like the one I didn't get a chance to catch earlier because as I pulled up, he was already landing. You would have seen there's barely any wing rocking at all on takeoff with that plane because it's so big. It handles the wind much nicer than these smaller models do. All right, coming in.
23 volts.
Maybe one more after this. Now, none of this is to say I don't like this model. I really do. I mean, I had to pay a decent amount of money to get it, even though I'm flying it on behalf of Hangar 18 Hobbies and beautiful Cary, North Carolina. But it's a model I prefer flying when the wind is dead. You notice how much better that landing was? I was just using throttle to control the direction of the nose, whether it pointed up or down, because the wind finally knocked off for just a second and went away. So it was much better that time around. When it's really turbulent out here, because it's It always is. If there's wind here, it's turbulent wind because of the nature of this area. There's so many buildings and so much rotor turbulence coming off of it. If you could see the wind flow, you'd see what I'm talking about. The planes certainly feel it, absolutely. All right, coming in. This will be the final landing.
22.8 volts.
There we go. Start my descent a little too far out, but that's okay. I can always adjust with throttle. Still getting some of that wing drop to the right. Okay, just about landed in the grass. That probably would have torn the gear out. When in doubt, throttle out, guys. Bring it into a knife edge pass.
6 minutes.
That's all rudder right there.
21.5 gear.
Those little plastic geared servos are handling it pretty well, I gotta admit. I'm liking it. I tried it with a big 70 and it didn't want to. Even with the differential thrust being added in, it still didn't want to.
Full flaps.
All right. Bringing her in.
22.7 volts.
There we go. That wasn't turbulence, that was just me messing up. There we go. Getting a nice stabilized approach. Trading altitude for airspeed, keeping the nose up, keeping the nose up. Barely saved that at the last second. I almost scratched the crap out of that plane. Oh my gosh. I'm so happy I'm a video gamer, man. I've got those reflexes that I need. Even at 38, I've still got pretty good reflexes. That was caused by, that was pilot error, 100%. So I landed too early, landed in the rough patch of pavement. The plane bounced when it hit the lip of the concrete over there on this taxiway. And then it was still flying, which is why it jumped up in the air, even though the wheels were on the ground. Not even a scratch. That was a close shave, guys. Not even a scratch. I mean, it looks perfectly fine. Let's check the gear real quick. Gear's holding tight, gear's holding tight, gear's holding tight. We're good to go. Yeah, no, quick reflexes will save your plane sometimes if you can recover from like pilot-induced oscillations or from landing the plane too early because the wing is still flying. Even with crow, it still happens. Well, you can easily flip it upside down and break it. That almost happened right there, and I'm glad I caught it on camera because woof. So if I had to make a judgment call between both of these planes, I would personally go for the 70mm. I paid for both of these. Neither one of these was like paid promotion. I would go for the 70. I paid $400 for it. It's been sitting on the hobby shelves, sitting on the shelves at the Hangar 18 Hobby for a very long time. And I negotiated it down to $400 because I wanted to do a comparison between these two models. I suspect that the V2 will fly just as good as the V1 if you were to set it up with Crow like I did. If you put the additional work into it to really bring out the awesome design of the model, I think you'll find that the 70 is a better plane than the 64, in my opinion. That is not to say that the 64 isn't a good plane. It's a really, really good plane. But if I had to choose between both of them, because of the sheer scale of the 70 and the quality of the servos because they're metal geared, I haven't replaced the servos in the 70. I did have to replace the ones in the 64 for how I want to fly. So that's all I'm saying. They're both great. They're great models. I love them both. Now I love the A-10 70 so much more now that I spent the time to fix it up. That's my verdict. If you had to pick between either one of them, I would go with the 70. But since you don't, or if you don't, go for both. Or if you want something that's light and nimble and really fast, go with the 64. It really all comes down to your personal preference. There's no better or worse between these two planes. They're just different models and they fly a little differently. But hey guys, it's been John from Sin RC. I hope you enjoyed this kind of stuff. More to come very soon. Coming right back with this A-10. This is a total surprise. I didn't realize that the CG adjustment would make it fly as well as it's flying. I'm probably talking even faster than I normally do, and man, I'm just excited. I didn't realize how much of an improvement the CG adjustment would make, not just to the takeoff and landing, but also to just the overall flying characteristics of the model. This is sweet. It's also helping the thrust line even just a little bit.
Throttle open. Flaps 50.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and start our takeoff roll, adjusting my glasses so I can see better. We're gonna go right back into knife edge. I might get even lower. Here we go.
Flap gear up.
Very scale-like rolls. It's not, and nowhere near as like crazy as the 64s are, but that's not why I got this plane. Knife edge. Look at those wings flex too as I go to pull out of that high G maneuver. Let's go inverted again, check the CG one more time. It's still pointing up, look at that. It's like flying in alpha right now. That's true neutral, guys. Like, it's going wherever I tell it to go. That's where you want a jet if you're trying to get the most out of it, to get the most potential out of your flying experience. That's the way to do it. Callouts?
23.42 volts.
I hope the wings didn't break there. I'm gonna bring her down real quick. I heard something that sounded weird when I pulled out of that because I came very close to hitting myself. We're gonna just check it real quick. Give it a quick structural integrity check so it doesn't disintegrate in midair. Flaps coming in.
5 minutes. Gear down.
Gear still being stubborn.
Gear up. Flaps up.
Okay, all 3 gear coming out this time. It was probably just some flexing that I heard, but I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys, if I freeze framed that, you would probably see that something went weird. I heard a crack. Nothing broke. That carbon's pretty strong in there, but that legitimately frightened me right there. I was expecting it to come flying at my face in pieces like a missile. Okay. Dropping the flaps. Not pulling the elevator until we start getting closer. There we go. Leveling our descent. I think it's fine, you know, but better safe than sorry. Let's do a quick structural integrity check. Holds that nose up attitude really well. I mean, it's taking the landing impact pretty good too, so I think we're okay. Okay. Turning around. Give that nose wheel even more freedom of movement, so I'm able to turn around without hitting the edges of the taxiway. I think we're fine, but again, better safe than sorry on this stuff. Make sure there's no cracks in the wings or anything. I'm gonna point the camera down so you guys can see what it is that I'm doing. There we go. I don't see any stress cracks. Hold the wing by that side. Seems fine. We're good to go. We're gonna take off right here. If I got enough power left to do that. It would really suck to destroy the model right as, you know, I'm getting ready to do the setup video.
23.35 volts. Throttle open. Flaps 50.
I'm gonna use up the last of this pack.
Flaps up. Gear up. Pack 21.18 volts. Flight pack 21.16 volts.
So far it's handling it just fine. I went up and intentionally flopped it around and it's handling the wind. I don't know if you guys saw that because I forgot to point the camera up as usual. Sorry about that.
22.26 volts.
All right, getting those gear out. We're gonna land permanently this time. I think I see all 3. Crow coming in, dropping the flaps as soon as I get around this bank here. Okay, I'm done banking, throttle down.
7 minutes.
Looks like the wheels aren't all the way out again.
Gear up. Gear down.
Okay.
22 point. Gear up. Gear down.
There we go, got the last one to come out. That's a really obnoxious problem with this model.
Pack 21.49 volts.
I'm gonna have to do some diagnostics when I get home. I know the servo is still working, but it's like there's something
21.26.
keeping it from always getting the command to retract or extend. All right, let's bring her in safe.
21.62 volts.
Still in crow.
Full flaps.
Crow coming in, flaps coming in. Leveling the wings out. Managing our turbulent descent here with throttle. Wish it didn't bounce as much as it does, but that's just a consequence of the what do you call it, the CG being so far back. I need to hit the bottom of the stabilizers with probably blue electrical tape to match the tops, so that it can protect the stabs from that kind of impact.
22.67.
All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the content on the 70mm A-10 and the 64 versus here. To me, the clear winner is the 70, but the 64 is a little faster, so if that's your thing and you want 5 miles an hour of extra speed, you got your choice. But to me, this is the king. Thanks for watching, guys. See you all next time.